looks like me in there. I don't know. I think it's me. Now it has a little. Oh no, it's not. Sorry, guys. This is just what there is.
We're bringing people Chassidus.
What?
We're bringing people Chassidus.
Yeah, there you go. You want to be in the middle. There you go. You see, you can't hold the phone in the middle, right?
Right, because the camera's on.
To the 4,682,112 people watching this on YouTube, you should all have a wonderful day. Remember to say my da'ani. Okay. So when I say, I think we have just that little paragraph left in our say, is that right?
I think we learned it actually.
Yeah, we learned that paragraph, got all the way to Vav?
Yeah.
Okay. Say it. Okay, so in Hay we saw two reasons why it is that Yidden do not need a proof for the existence of the Eibishter. Mitzad Emunah. And that the source of that Emunah is either Mazli Chazi, that there's a level of our neshama that sees Elokus now while we're standing, sitting, laying, whatever we're doing, walking down here. So there's a level of our neshama in Elam Atzilus that is experiencing Elokus. It's seeing Elokus the same way we're seeing physical reality. It's seeing godly reality. So that has a makiftik effect on us, right? Some residual effect on us. But there's a deeper level, and that's Etzem and Neshama. That Etzem and Neshama is essentially, the essence of our soul is essentially connected to the essence of the Eibishter. And on that level, we're inseparable. So our emunah is not so much based on an event that we see something, which as powerful as that is, that's still something external, because after all, I'm seeing something else, so to speak. The experience of Elokus, of a Yid, is experiencing themselves for all intents and purposes. They're essentially connected to that. So the mashal, one of the mashalim we brought was the person's relationship to their own hand. Now, obviously, that's it completely limited that mashal, right? But it still helps us understand the idea of an essential connection. I don't have to see my hand in order to know that my hand is my hand, right? My hand's my hand. It's part of me, right? Now, obviously, the place where the mashal falls apart is it is possible for a person to live without a hand, right? Okay, so then you might say the same about your head. Now, it's interesting, the head is the one part of yourself that you really don't see, right? You know, I mean, you never see it in 3D, right? You'll see your head in 2D, right? You'll see it, you know, you could see it, you can take a selfie, right? Or you can take a picture, or you can look in a mirror, but you never exactly see, never see what it looks like to other people. Okay, and that's also part of you, interestingly enough, that you can't do without. So if someone were to say to you, I'll let you live if you let me cut off your head, so that would be a rather untenable deal, right? I'm not going to take that deal. I'm not there, because you can't let me live and cut off my head. Okay, so too, separating the neshama from the Eibishter is impossible. And we'll see, that's why the Rebbe doesn't use those words here, but it's brought in other places. That's why it says in Chassidus that a Yid, it's also in Basi Lagani, Tafshin Yud. So when you start learning Basi Lagani as a preparation for Yud Shvat, you'll see it, right? in Tafshin Yud, in Ois Gimel. You'll see the Rebbe says there, a Yid ain't a reitzer, ain't a yochel, b'shum eifin liyos nifrad mi'elokus. He doesn't want, and he's not able to be separate from the Eibishter. Why two lashonis? Well, he doesn't want, he's not able. So what's the difference? So the difference is, what we're just talking about, mitzad, makif, mitzad, the fact that mazli chazi. So what do we say makif is? Chayish b'nefesh, that's the source of ratzon. That's the source of my will. Oh, so my will to be connected to a Kadosh Baruch Hu is incredibly powerful. But it's the revelation of neshama, that level of emunah will bring me to a state of mesiras nefesh because I want to be connected to the Eibishter. But it's also possible that my desire to live will overcome my desire to be connected to the Eibishter. even though ultimately living without the Eibishter is not called living, okay, beseder. But that's the battle. And it might be that it's possible for me to lose that battle on that level, on the level of Ratzon. So the Ratzon to live will overcome the Ratzon to be connected to the Eibishter. So a person won't be Meisei Nefesh if that's the level of their emunah that is being revealed at this particular point. Now, in most cases they will, but it's theoretically possible that they won't. A revelation of Etzem and Neshama, it's impossible. It's not that they want to be connected, they're not able to be disconnected. Eina yochel lipared le'elukus, from elukus. Just like cutting off your head to save yourself. You can't cut off your head to save yourself. There's no such thing. Eina yochel, right? I don't want to cut off my hand to save myself. Okay, fine. That's theoretically possible, right? Okay. I'm not able to cut off my head to save myself. There's no such thing. It doesn't exist. Right? Oh, and that's the level of Etzem and Neshama. We'll see that inside. Vinyanu. Vav. Now, just that little paragraph at the end of Hey, so that helped us understand the connection between Raya Mehemna and Kosis Lamar. Right? Raya Mehemna brings about a revelation of Emunah, Be'etzem, the revelation of Etzem and Neshama. And the essential expression of that will be in Mesiras Nefesh, Kosis Lamar. Right? That's what Rebbe said. Ve'inyanu. Dezeh she'emunah di Yisrael hu be'ofen. Fact that the emunah of a Yid is in a way, Shum Meiser Nafshel, that he's willing to give up his life for it. Who be'ikr is be'etzem be'emunah shemitzad etzem and neshama. Comes from the emunah that comes as a result of the etzem and neshama. This is what we just said outside. The Rebbe is saying it inside. The emunah mitzad zeshu roya mazli chazi. The emunah that comes as a result of the fact that he sees elukus. Hagam shehi b'toikef gadol, even though it's extremely powerful. And the Rebbe says what we saw also in the previous ayos, ki yadua, as is known, these amsus, the hit amtut. What's that word? What's the root? Emes. Yifeh. So what's hit amtut? Reflexive emes. What does that mean?
Process of finding truth.
Not really, no. Close. It isn't so much finding the truth.
Process of becoming genuine.
Okay, Yefeh. So that now you're talking about in terms of the person, but this isn't emotional. It's intellectual, right? Genuine is sort of an emotional thing, right? Verification, right? Something becoming true, right? Because that's hitpa'al, right? Becoming something, right? To itself, right? Hitpa'al, reflexive, right? So the verification, hit amtut, important word, shows up a lot. Not just in Chassidus, it'll show up in any book about ideas in Yiddishkeit. Right? Yedua, these amsus, the verification, the veracity of something, shemitzada re'iyah, as a function of re'iyah, his amsus gedei l'biyos, it's very, very powerful verification of something. If I saw it, you can't tell me it didn't happen if I saw it. And that's why we paskin ein eid naseh dayan. That an aid can't be a dayan. It's halach in Shulchan Aruch, right? That a person who saw an event can't be the judge of that particular event. Why? Well, a judge has to be able to be open to two sides of an argument. Well, he's not open to two sides of an argument. He saw Reuven kill Shimon. How can you possibly talk in court about the fact that Reuven didn't kill Shimon? Right? Maybe there's some issue here that we don't understand, and therefore we can't put Reuven to death for killing Shimon. He saw Reuven kill Shimon. So he's not exactly the person to be the judge of this particular situation. Am I allowed to say on YouTube that I find this thing in the middle of the airspace of us that annoying? Am I allowed to say that? This thing is in the middle of, it was always down there, right? So it's not in our airspace.
Right.
Now it is. I wonder if I'll have to ask Rabbi Levinger if there's a way of dealing with that. Because it's annoying, right? Because I keep seeing myself as I pass by, and then I get distracted. Who is that person? Right? Okay. That's not your problem. It's my problem, but, that you might identify with it. I can just look down at the book the whole time.
It's like the Shabbos table when they put the flowers.
Right. You can't see anybody. Right. Mikol Mokim. Nevertheless, so even though Re'i is an incredibly powerful expression of verification, but we're still going to explain that it's not Etzem. Mikol Mokim. Kevin Shemuna Shaloi. Since the Amuna that comes as a result of seeing Elokus, Hi Mitzad Siba, it's a function of a reason, right? There's a reason that I believe in the Eibishter. Why? Because I saw the Eibishter. Mitzad Zeh Sheroyeh, because the fact that he sees the Eibishter. Ve'ena keshura im etzem mitziyusei, but it's not connected to the essence of his being. It's still something that happened to him. It's not him. It's very powerful. It's powerfully connected to him. It's powerfully expressed in him. He'll talk about it a lot. It's not him. Something that it's an external event. Eina muchrach. That's the word that's important based on what we were just talking about outside. Muchrach means absolutely necessary, right? It's not absolutely necessary. She'im sernav shelazeh. May he? Absolutely, 100%. He very well might be Meiser Nefesh based on the fact of Mazli Chazi. Absolutely. He might even be Meiser Nefesh based on the fact that his Seichel tells him that it's a reasonable thing to do. People join armies all over the world. Right? I'll be Seichel. It's a reasonable thing to do. I believe in the motherland, and I'm willing to give up my life for the motherland. Okay, okay, I'll be Seichel. Someone has to do it. Okay. The question is, to what extent is he going to go? Okay. By Etzem and Neshama, I'm sorry, by Etzem and Neshama, it's muchach. It's absolutely there. Azoy v'nit andrish. This is the way it is, and there is no other way. Kacha v'yefshar acheret. This is the way it is. V'yefshar acheret. There's no other way. In Yiddish, azoy v'nit andrish. How the Rebbeim said it. Azoy, this is the way it is. V'nit andrish. There is no other way. That's Etzem and Neshama. That's like, I'll let you live if you let me cut off your head. What are you talking about? There's no such thing. Can't be separate from the Eibishter. Mazli Chazi, since it's based on a reason, so then there might be a reason that's more powerful to stay alive. What might the Jew say? I don't want to be separate from the Eibishter. But I want to live because I want to keep 20 more Shabbosim. If I let myself, if the person lets himself be Meiser Nefesh over this Shabbos, so then he won't be able to keep the next 500 Shabbosim, however many. Right? So I really want to keep those Shabbosim. So he won't give us a minute. Whereas if it's a Zoy v'nit andrish, there's no such thing as doing this. There's no such thing. It doesn't exist. Whatever it is that the guy is asking. And that which the emunah of the Jewish people is in a way, a fashion. That he's willing to give up his life. That's when the emunah is his etzem. Then it's impossible that he will deny his connection. Why? It's mamish the equation. I'll let you live if you let me cut off your head. There's no such thing. It doesn't exist. Efshar. It's impossible. It's impossible to be without your head. Oh, so it's on a panimistic level, it's impossible to be without your connection to the Eibishter. The Jew can't be that. Even if he might be able to figure out some way in which, by virtue of doing this action right now, and not being Meiser Nefesh, so he'll be able to stay connected to the Eibishter for X amount of more decades. Say that. That's... And that's really the whole Vart. Now that I was going to explain this, but now he's going to explain the whole Indian of Raya Mehemna. There's all this stuff showing up on the screen. I don't know what it is. I'm sorry for bothering you with that, but I'm just trying to figure out what this is. And okay, let's go. Valpize. I'll do my best to ignore this. Alpize yesh levar mashakosa b'maimer. Dezeh shemeshu raya mehemna. That which meshu is raya mehemna. Shuzan umfarnes es emuna. The Rebbe is going to say an incredible pshat in what that means, a big chiddush. Hu gam b'negeh l'rei Yisrael shebachol dor. This is also relevant to the Rei Yisrael, the shepherds of the Jewish people in every generation. Ispashtusa d'meshish b'chol dara, the Zohar. Shehem mechazkim es emunah Yisrael. That they also strengthen the emunah of the Jewish people. Sheyamdu b'mesiras nefesh b'kiyum Torah mitzvahs. That they'll stand in the state of mesiras nefesh in the performance of Torah mitzvahs. That's the Indian of Moshe Rabbeinu. That's what Moshe Rabbeinu is about. But the essential expression of that is dafka when the Raya Mehemna brings the Yidden to a state of mesiras nefesh. Now, interestingly enough, and we'll see this as we go further, Moshe Rabbeinu himself as a person in Olam Hazeh from the years 2368 until 2488, which is when Moshe Rabbeinu lived, he did not bring the Yidden to a state of mesiras nefesh b'foil. Why? It wasn't necessary. Right? Moshe Rabbeinu didn't do that. Mordechai did, but Moshe Rabbeinu didn't. That's not an indictment of Moshe Rabbeinu, just that Moshe Rabbeinu's the mesiras nefesh of Moshe Rabbeinu's generation was not seven nishma, was conceptual mesiras nefesh. Moshe Rabbeinu himself didn't bring the Yidden to a state of mesiras nefesh. Say there, but they were certainly ready to be mesiras nefesh. That's what Na'aseh v'nishma was all about. They experienced this essential connection to the Eibishter. It just didn't express itself in mesiras nefesh because it didn't have to express itself in mesiras nefesh. No one was trying to kill them at that point. Right? Even by the Mitzrim, it was a different situation. Right? So the most powerful expression of Raya Mehemna is shemechazkim es emunah d'Yisrael sheyamdu b'mesiras nefesh b'kiyum Torah mitzvahs. And we're going to see this as we go later in the Maimer. That's very, very much the generation of the Frierdiker Rebbe. The L'cha'ura, at first glance, Zeh shemesha zanim farnes es emunah, that which Mesha nourishes the emunah, who kemavur b'kama mekemis, is, as it's explained in a number of places, v'gam b'maimer zeh atzmai, and also in this Maimer itself, the Frierdiker Rebbe's Maimer that we're learning, and it's very kedai to look at footnote 34. It's just very interesting. It's one of those footnotes that it's so subtle, but it's so interesting. So the Rebbe brings the sources for the idea of Raya Mehemna. Torah or Mishpatim, Ubekama Makemis. What are those Kama Makemis? What's Torah or Mishpatim? It's talking about the Yemen and Eved Ivri. And the Tzemach Tzedek in the Torah of Eved Ivri. All of the Torah is about Eved Ivri, so they discuss this idea. Okay. And then the Rebbe says something. Re'ei gam Tanya Reish Perek Mem Beis. Look also in Tanya Perek Mem Beis. When you look at also in Tanya, I mean, you think Tanya is the first place you look, right? It all started with Tanya, right? This is the week of the Alter Rebbe, Chavdalet Davis this week. Alter Rebbe's Yortzeit. Okay, so where was it? Re'ei gam. So it's pointed out by those people who know a lot that there is a difference between all those Maimarim and Tanya. All those Maimarim are talking about the Inyan of Raya Mehemna Shaykh to Amuna, that he's the Raya Mehemna, that he nourishes the Amuna. That's what they're talking about. What we've been talking about in this Maimar. Because when we brought two different Perushim in Raya Mehemna, we've been focusing on the second. We said, what were the two Perushim in Raya Mehemna?
One is that Moshe is the shepherd, the leader of the Jewish people. He's faithful to the Jewish people.
Fair. Roya and Ne'eman. He's the faithful shepherd, B'diuk. And the other is that he's the shepherd of faith, B'diuk. Okay, so we've been learning Pshat the whole way through this Maimer based on this second Pshat. That it's all about Raya Mehemna nourishing the Amunah, Zana Farnes Es Amunah. In Tanya, over there, the Rebbe talks about the Indian of Raya Mehemna not relative to Amunah, but relative to Yir Shamayim. Right? It's a whole different discussion. And so if you look over there, it's actually more connected to the idea of Roeh Ne'aman than Raya Mehemna. So it's not talking about Amunah. It's about Yira. Right? Yira is Kabbalah Soul. It's talking about Yira Tata. So we're talking the lower level Yira, which obviously there's an aspect of Amunah there, Beseder, but I mean Yira Tata could even be, absolute Kabbalah Soul where the person has Sfekus in Amunah, but he does it anyway, this is what I do. This is important to do. It has to be done. And Bezrat Hashem, my Sfekus in Amunah will disappear. Right? So that's why the Rebbe says Re'eh Gam. It's talked about over there, but in a different context. So this whole idea, Shemesha Zan in front of says Emunah, fourth line on page Kuf Lamed Gimel. Who kemavur bekama makemis v'gam b'maimer ze atzmei. Also in this mimer, that you'll find, as the Rebbe says, Sif Yud Aleph at the end of the mimer. Al Yidei Shemashpia Yisrael das be'elukus. Shal Yidei ze ba Emunah b'pnimius. Now das, talk about Moshe and Das a lot, and that's what's talked about in Torah, etc. Right? That what does Moshe do? Well, what's Das? Das is bringing something into Pnimius. Das is a power of Seichel, but it's the power of Seichel that connects Seichel to emotion. That means it brings it into Pnimius. It's part of my conscious reality. It's what I feel. It's what I experience. That's Das, because it's theoretically possible for me to understand something intellectually, but I have no connection to it whatsoever. Right? It doesn't move me. Right? I know it. I know the information well, right? But it doesn't. It's not part of my reality in any way, shape, or form. That story we told about that European professor discussing Kabbalah, right? So what's missing? Das. It has nothing to do with him. He's picking at dead bones, right? He's related to himself as a historian. What's a historian? He picks at dead bones. Right? Oh, maybe it has something to do with me, maybe it doesn't. Right? Knowledge for knowledge's sake is a completely non-Jewish concept. Because what's missing? Das. Knowledge is all about internalization. Knowledge, in order that it brings about a real change in who I am and what I am and how I behave, right? Knowledge for knowledge's sake, right? I mean, I'm being recorded here, so I feel bad saying this, but generally, the most morally depraved professors on college campuses are the philosophy and history professors. They're the ones running after the co-eds. Shouldn't they be the ones who are most uplifted and living the purest lives? So I mean, they're dealing with ideas all day long. The chemistry professor isn't. He's just making green liquids turn blue. Like, I mean, what's the big deal? Making it froth in the. That can be done in different ways. That can be done through, well, it's interesting when the Rebbe said, what's a Rebbe, right? So the last two things the Rebbe said about that, he said three things, right? The last two are very, very much in terms of affecting other people, right? So the Rebbe said, teaching Torah, al pi Shulchan Aruch, right? Teaching Torah and mitzvahs, and that a dugma chaya, that you're a living example. And the Rebbe said, ad mesiras nefesh mamish. Right, when the Rebbe was asked to describe a Rebbe, when in the time of the trial, when Rabbi Krinsky wanted to talk to the lawyers, so what should they say? So the Rebbe said that's what they should say a Rebbe is in court. What was the first? Who remembers the first? No. I forget the first. Second was teaching Torah to the Jewish people, al pi Shulchan Aruch, The third was Adug Mechaya. So those two were all Shaykh the Das, right? Helping the Yidden internalize their relationship with the Kadosh Baruch Hu. Simple pshat in Moshe Rabbeinu. Shemashpil Yisrael das belukus. Shal yedei zeh, by virtue of this, by emunah b'pnimis. V'zeh shirei Yisrael shebechol dor, and that which the shepherds of the Jewish people in every generation, mechazkim emunah, they strengthen the emunah of the Yidden, hamavur b'maimer zeh, as is explained in this maimer. Right? Look at footnote 36. The Rebbe says Mashain Kain, which is interesting because we'll see the difference here. Mashain Kain B'Tanya Sham, that which is not what's talked about in Tanya Sham. Yerdim nitzutz in nishmas Moshe Rabbeinu v'lamed das esa'am. Now that seems to be what we're saying here, but let's see what the Rebbe is about to say. The Rebbe is going to say that the essential expression of that is the Mesiras Nefesh of it. I'm sorry. Who? When is that? She'amuna d'Yisrael tiyeh ba'efin de Mesiras Nefesh. Right over there in Tanya it talks about Yer Shemayim. V'al pi hanal yesh leimar. Based on this, there is to say, she'ikar ha'inyan de Raya Mehemna. The essential inyan of Raya Mehemna. Here's what the Rebbe says, an incredible chiddush. Hu zeh shu zan umfarnes es emuna atzma. How do you translate those words directly? What did the Rebbe just say?
He cultivates and nourishes Emunah itself, right?
Bediuk. The Emunah itself. Up until now, our dagesh has been on the effect of the Emunah on the human being. The Jew's Emunah will be greater. The Jew's Emunah will be b'pnimius. It won't be a makif, it'll be b'pnimius. It'll be part of their conscious reality. That's what we've been saying up until now. And that to a great degree is being melamed das. Now the Rebbe is saying something different. And the other Rebbeim don't express it this way. It's a chiddush of the Rebbe, explaining them. They don't say this explicitly. She'ikar inyan deraya mehemna hu zeh shu zan in front of says emuna atzma, the emuna itself. What does that mean? Shahemuna tiyeh, not that the person will be different, the emuna will be different. She'emuna tiyeh loy rak kameshi mitzad giluyim, that the emuna will be not only as it is, as a result of revealed reality, and that of course will be mazli chazi, mitzad zeh she'neshama shelamayla roya lakus, and that will bring about a certain reality called emuna. No, the emuna itself will be a deeper emuna. Ela mitzad etzem and neshama. The emuna that's a function of etzem and neshama. Keep reading, then we'll have to talk about this, because you might say, well, what difference does it make? It's still me down here. V'zeh shemeshem mamshich es emuna b'pnimius, and that which meshes mamshich emuni draws down emuna b'pnimius. What does that mean? B'das v'asoga, it's part of my conscious reality, it's part of my experience of self. Hu tetzave mizeh. That's a result of the fact, shuzan in front of says emuna atzma, that he affects the emuna itself. Hamshachas v'gilui emuna kameshi mitzad etzem neshama, which is the drawing down and revelation of the emuna as it is mitzad etzem neshama. The fact that the word totzah is a different font is very, very telling. Because up until now, what do we understand? We understood that the ikar is that I will experience emuna b'pnimius. Okay, that's still the ikar. Well, it's not the ikar. That's still what's happening. But that's only happening as a result of something else that's happening. Since Moshe Rabbeinu is mezan and faneses emuna atzma, since Moshe Rabbeinu affects the emuna itself, that it should be from etzem and neshama, the emuna itself. We'll talk about that in a second. The result of that is that it affects me more powerfully. It comes into my pnimius. And that's based on what we saw earlier, the difference between a makif and etzem. Makif is makif. It's not conscious me. Etzem is the etzem of every part of me. It's also the etzem of conscious me, right? The difference between the three different levels of reality: immanent reality, transcendent reality, and essential reality, right? So immanent is immanent, fine, that's conscious me. Makif is that level that, if it's revealed in conscious me, it's mevatel, the previous state, and reveals this temporarily, this incredibly powerful connection to the Eibusher. It's only a makif, it doesn't change me. And then etzem's my etzem chayis, it's who I am. So if it's revealed, it's an expression of every single aspect of me, because that's what etzem is. It's the etzem of every single aspect of me. So if my etzem is revealed, then every single aspect of me is changed and expresses that etzem. Oh, but that now is all a totza'ah. That's all a result of the fact that Moshe Rabbeinu affects our emunah. You say, but I don't understand. What's the difference? It's my emunah, so it's all about me. So perhaps the following mashal will help us understand this. Power of sight. Obviously, the power of sight as it exists down here in Elam Hazeh is all about you and I seeing. Okay, I get that. That's true. But I can help you see better. That's one thing I can do. Or I can affect your power of sight. Now, Mamela, by virtue of me affecting your power of sight, what's going to happen?
You'll see differently.
You'll see better. You'll see differently, you'll see better. I assume. I don't want to make you see worse, right? I assume you'll see better. Oh. But that's not because I worked on your sight. I worked on the power of sight itself. So, what would that be? I mean, this is where medicine is trying to go, right? If I could get into your genetic code and affect that part of your code that affects your eyesight and supercharge it, right, so to speak, I could affect it somehow. Now, it's not really, I'm not changing it, right? Because etzem is etzem, right? But in terms of the power of sight, we'll say changing, just because we're talking about us and we're talking about limited reality. When you're talking about etzem, you're talking about unlimited reality. Okay, but when you're talking about a power of sight, we can use the mashal that I'm changing it. So I'm supercharging your power of sight. I'm affecting your power of sight in its source. Oh, now what? Well, you're going to see better. But that sight, the fact that you see better, is a totza'ah, as a result of my affecting a more essential level in you. It's not that what I was working on was affecting your sight. I was affecting something deeper in you, and mamela, that affected totza'ah from that. The result of that is your sight is better. That's how the Rebbe just explained Moshe Rabbeinu affecting emunah. Moshe Rabbeinu zan u'farnes emunah, which means he affects that power of our soul. He injects that power of our soul with greater power, so to speak. The totza'ah of that is that it expresses itself in our panemius. Because then that's a greater expression of emunah. It's a greater expression of etzem in the neshama. That's that's a completely different way of looking at the whole equation. Completely different. And it has a lot to do with who Moshe is. Because who's Moshe? Well, the Rebbe doesn't say this explicitly in this mimer. It's hinted at later in the mimer, but it's brought in other places in Chassidus and said explicitly that every neshama of every yid and every generation is a piece of the neshama of the Moshe of that generation. Right? Okay, so what's Moshe is the neshama klolis, and the neshama pratis, the individual neshama, is a little piece of that neshama klolis. So Moshe Rabbeinu, I can definitely affect my etzem neshama in a very, very powerful way. Why? Because it's actually a piece of him. And that's one of the pshatim in the pasuk that we saw earlier. Shesh meis elef raglia am asher anechi bekirbay, that I'm in its midst. I'm in the midst of every single one of them. Right? It's the Alter Rebbe in Tanya. What question does the Alter Rebbe answer in Tanya based on this idea? The famous pasuk of Moshe Rabbeinu saying to the Jewish people, all the Eibishter wants is that you should fear him. Right? So what question do Chazal ask? Atu yira milses atrocity? Yira is such a small thing. Like all I'm asking is that you should fear me. All I'm asking you should fear me. That's not so simple. I mean, all you're asking. All I'm asking is just pass the apple. Okay, I can pass the apple. All I'm asking is jump to the moon. Jump to the moon. I mean, all you're asking. Like, it's going to take me a long time to train to jump to the moon. Right? So the Gemara asks, Atu yira milsa zutrosi? Is yira such a small thing? And the Gemara answers, yes. Lagabe Moshe milsa zutrosi. By Moshe, it's a small thing. So now, of course, that answer is a completely incomplete answer. Because what do you mean by Moshe, it's a small thing? Who's Moshe talking to? Us. Not talking to himself. He's talking to us, right? So what does that mean? By Moshe, it's a small thing. Oh, thanks, Moshe. I appreciate your tremendous empathy with us and our experience down here in Eilam Hazeh, unlike yours. That's very sweet of you. What's the big deal? Right? Of course, it's a big deal. So what does the Alter Rebbe explain in Tanya? Simple pshat. By Moshe, it says milsa zutrasi, and every single Jew has a little piece of Moshe. So mitzvah, that aspect of every single one of us, it's a milsa zutrasi. Yeah, so it is by every single Jew. Right? I've got a little bit of Moshe in me. One of the best Jewish rock and roll songs ever. Right? It's amazing. I mean, every now and then they hit it, those two. Because they're Lubavitchers and they learn Chassidus. Every now and then their songs are like, they like hit a point. It's just an incredible point. Okay, but say the music is what the music is. It's all just, little pieces of Geisha rock and roll turned into Jewish words. Okay, say them. Some of it's better, some of it's worse. I mean, Baruch Hashem, they haven't gone, past the late 70s, so I don't run into anything too terrible. That was for you, Ari. Okay. So the Rebbe says an amazing thing here. Absolutely an amazing thing. And that's why these words are emphasized. And it's emphasized in an edited version of the Mimer, which means when they gave this into the Rebbe circled the word, the Rebbe underlined the word, right? The Rebbe added the word, right? And the Rebbe wrote that line, but that v'zeh shemesha mamshich es emunah b'pnimius. But that's who tetzave mizeh. That's only a result of the fact that he does what he does be'ikr, which is what? Shuzan in front of says emunah atzma. That word atzma changes everything. And that's the first time we've had it here. Hamshachas v'gilu emunah kamesh yibin tzad etzem min hashama. Ukenal, like we said earlier, sif hey, hamshachas emunah b'pnimius b'das. Drawing emunah down into pnimius, b'das, part of my conscious reality, that a person lives their emunah, meaning they live their relationship with the Eibishter. It's part of their conscious reality. It's what they think about. It's what they experience. So to speak, it's not that the Eibishter is over there and I'm over here, and I have to be very, very careful. Obviously, there's a certain aspect of this, right? I mean, this is better than nothing, right? That I'm over here and he's over there, and he's got a big long whip, and I got to make sure that I do everything I'm supposed to do, or he's going to smash me. Okay, so there's a certain awareness of elokus in that. Okay, but there's a lack of connection, right? It's on a certain level you call it a connection, to the extent that I'm connected to my slave master, and I guess I'm connected to him, right? I live in his bunk, but okay. But that's not exactly the type of connection I would would, appreciate. Right? No, living Elokus means that life is a dance with the Eibishter. The Eibishter is for bringing all day long in your life, and you just have to have your eyes and ears open to it and be sensitive to it. Right? Okay, so that's very real. That's hard. That takes a long time to internalize, if ever. Okay, but who's Mesha? Mesha is the one that wants to help us get to that point. How do we bring it down into das? By connecting to the etzem of who we are. What did the Rebbe tell us in the last mimer we learned? Maybe it wasn't the last, maybe it was 2 ago, because we did a Chanukah mimer in between Taka, the Pada B'Shalom. Yeah, we did Pada B'Shalom Chaf Beis, yeah. So the Rebbe talks about the fact, in Ois Gimel, right? The Rebbe talks about the fact that what does it mean to be connected to etzem and the Neshama? So it can also mean just the awareness of the fact that you have such a thing, and the hachlota to behave in line with it. Lav dafka, there's this incredible explosion of etzem and neshama that's what you're feeling all day long. Right? But you're aware of the fact that your essential being is godly. That's who you really are. Right? And then what do? Less. You use the word I less. You just use that word less, because you're not talking about yourself all the time. You're talking about, and not even those things that you experienced in life, even though every now and then something you experience in life obviously is going to be very useful in order to help you understand something or help someone else understand. So, okay, say it 100%. Right? But you're going to spend just as much time or more talking about other people's experiences, other people, so you'll spend more time telling stories about other people than about yourself. And so you'll tell stories about Reb Mendel, you'll tell stories about this one or that one. How do you know the stories? You heard the stories and you listen to the stories, and the stories resonate. Why? Because they help bring Elokus into your conscious reality. Make a point over the next, it'll take a while, okay? Just have to remember this for a while. The next 10 sikhas that you learn and the next 10 maimarim that you learn, how many times the Rebbe says the word I? And you probably won't find it. Right? There is someone who wrote it. He's an interesting guy, actually. He works in Bar Ilan. He wrote a PhD about Dar Hashvi and the Rebbe, and he claims, this is not true, but it's close enough to true that you could claim it, right? That the Rebbe never said the word I in forbidden, but that's not true. There are the Rebbe, every now and then the Rebbe tell a story about his childhood, or he'd tell a story about his father, or tell a story about some event that happened with the Frierdiker Rebbe, or, Right? But I think, wasn't that a Sar B'Tevis, right? Wasn't that the Hayom of a Sar B'Tevis? Is there a Hayom here? I mean, I could find it on my phone, but then I'll lose YouTube. Is there a Yom? Anybody have a Yom on their phone? Wasn't it a Sar B'Tevis? Maybe it was just the person that, I think, my opinion, right? How that's the Russia should lead. Well, we saw it in the Chaf Beis also, right? The story, the other Rebbe, the Rebbe brings that Hayom in the Maimon that we just saw, Chaf Beis, where no, but I think it's a Sar B'Tevis, I think. Have you got a Sar B'Tevis there?
Sar B'Tevis is in here.
Okay. It was a Friday, right? So if that's last week's, we'll miss it. I think it was a Sar B'Tevis. I'm not 100% sure. But we learned it in Chaf Beis, right? That fellow who came to the Tzemach Tzedek in Yechidus and said everybody's walking all over me in the Zal. And the Tzemach said, I didn't know that you were on every blata in the Zal, that you were there. Have you got it there?
For Sar B'Tevis?
Yeah, what does it say?
So the Tzemach Tzedek explained, it is written, let the wicked man abandon his path and the man of iniquity abandon his
Oh, so man of iniquity, right? Ish avein machshavesa, but it's ish own. Like we saw yesterday. By whom? Ruvain. Oni, my power, your strength. Okay, so what does he say? He's reading in English.
The word avein can also be interpreted as hinting at oin, strength, just as a wicked man must abandon his path. For without tshuva, he cannot approach holiness. So too, a man of strength, that is a person who is strong and confident in his own opinions, must abandon his thoughts. He should no longer say, "This is what I say," or "This is how I hold," for any mention of I and any conception of oneself as an entity of we import is a source of evil and instills divisiveness between people's hearts.
Right. Okay, so it doesn't mean you ever use the word I. Right? Ari would like some cornflakes. Could you please pass Ari the cornflakes? We don't talk that way, right? Okay, so obviously I'd like some cornflakes. Could you please pass them to me? Right? Okay. But I think, I saw, all that, right? Rabbi Wichner likes to say, right, that if you ask people to talk about themselves, they can talk for an hour. Ask them to talk about HaKadosh Baruch Hu, they run out of things to say after a minute or two. He created the world, split the sea. No, you have a lot more to say about the Eibishter, right? Of course you can have a lot to say about yourself, right? Why? Well, because you're with yourself all the time. You know a lot about yourself in a certain way. Okay, I get it, true, but talk about it. It's not, You have a very powerful relationship with yourself. Okay, it doesn't mean I have to spill it all over the table all the time. And to use, you're going to have a very powerful relationship with your wife. You're going to share your whole life with your wife. I don't think you're going to spill your life with your wife all over the table everywhere you go. Right? Oh, my wife said to me, and my wife said to me, and my wife said to me, and this is what I hope not. It's your relationship with your wife. Keep it to yourself. Right? And keep it to yourself mitzad the preciousness of that relationship, not mitzad no one else wanting to hear about it. Also, no one else wants to hear about it, but that's a separate issue. Right? Our 2-year-old walked into the kitchen yesterday. Wasn't doing anything. He was just walking like a 2-year-old. Like 2-year-olds walk. They have to walk. Walking into the kitchen, he says, to no one in particular, "Uy, ein li koach." I don't have any energy. I have energy. The kid's bouncing off the walls. Hasn't stopped for a minute, right? Playing with this and doing this and that, right? But he obviously heard his parents say that a few times, so he walks into the kitchen. Uy, ein li koach. So his mother heard him say, "What? What did he say?" So those stories you can share. Those are shareable and give joy to other Jews. They're so cute. But you're 2 years old and you haven't stopped. It's true that he then crashed for 2 hours on the couch. Okay, beside her, but so sweet. It's a little adult in a tiny little body. So let's finish the paragraph. Now the Rebbe says an amazing thing. This whole mimer is amazing. That in those generations that required Mesiras Nefesh B'Foyel, the generation of Mordechai, which is going to be what the Rebbe brings, later on in the mimer the Rebbe is going to bring the generation of the Frierdiker Rebbe. Chizku Raya Yisrael. They strengthened the Roy Yisrael, Ispashtusa Demesha, Esemuna de Yisrael, Shatia b'Mesiras Nefesh, and therefore the Roy Yisrael, their avodah in that generation was to be mefarnes their muna such that it produced the totza'av that was Mesiras Nefesh. Nizgala in the Raya Mehemnya. It's revealed this whole notion of Raya Mehemnya, be'inyan zeh, in this particular aspect, and you'll see the Rebbe in footnote 37 says, see what I say in footnote 56. So we'll look over there when we get there. Meaning, it's not, but let's just finish and see what the Rebbe says. Mordechai is more Moshe than Moshe himself relative to the inyan of the Raya Mehemna being the one that brings the Yidden to a state of Mesiras Nefesh. That's what the Rebbe just said, right? Right? Read it again. Those generations that required Mesiras Nefesh Shefayim. And what happened? He's Kurei Yisrael, and the leaders of that generation, Mordecai, and just put Mordecai in there. Mordecai, in the time of Purim, strengthened the Jewish people. Es Emunah Yisrael, Shtiv Mesiras Nefesh, said the Yidden stood in a state of Mesiras Nefesh. Nizgala Inyan the Raya Mehemna. This particular aspect of Raya Mehemna, that Raya Mehemna is Mefarnes Es Emunah ad Kedei Kach that the Totza'ah could be Mesiras Nefesh. Even more than Moshe himself, because in Moshe's generation, Mesiras Nefesh wasn't called for. Mesiras Nefesh B'Koyach, but not B'Foil. Wasn't Mesiras Nefesh B'Koyach, Nasa v'Nishma. I'll do whatever I have to do. Say it. But they weren't pushed to a state of, you're going to die. Ki hamshochas v'gilu amuna k'meishi mitzad etzem and neshama, because the drawing down and the revelation of amuna as it is mitzad etzem and neshama, shal yedei Moshe v'yispashtusa dileish b'chol dara, that comes a result of Moshe and the expression of Moshe in every generation. Iker yizgalusa, which already said in the Maimer, hu Mesiras Nefesh b'Foil. The Iker revelation of this is Mesiras Nefesh b'Foil. When do you see most powerfully that a Yid is completely and totally connected to his essential connection to the Eibusher, that he's willing to give up his life for it? He can't. There is no such thing as life without Elokus. Doesn't exist. Azoy v'nitandrish. Where does that come from? Generally, Raya Mehemna, not just Kassis Lamor, both. Raya Mehemna. Where do you see that most powerfully? Well, you didn't see it in the generation of Moshe Rabbeinu because there wasn't a Kassis. All right? That doesn't mean that Moshe Rabbeinu didn't do a good job. Moshe Rabbeinu did what he was supposed to do. Okay. But Mordecai did that on a more powerful level than Moshe. And so you see that aspect of Raya Mehemna revealed in Mordecai more than in Moshe. Now, the Rebbe says, Binyan Zeh. And we'll see in footnote 56, which is over the page, right? It's in Ois, what, Yud, I think. What? Yud, yeah. It's in Ois Yud. So the Rebbe will explain that it's only a one line. But the Rebbe, I'm sorry, no, that's not true. I take it back. It's actually 3 paragraphs. The Rebbe will explain that. We'll see. It's very difficult. Ha'ara about das. Okay? Say them? So the Chiddush in this ois, Zana Farnes as Emuna Atzma. That word. Right? That he affects the Emunah itself, not simply the person. Up until now, we had been thinking all the time that it's affecting the person, that they're connected to their Emunah. No, it affects the Emunah. Therefore, the natural totza'ah of that is that it comes into Pnimius. In other words, and how does he affect the Emunah? That it should be a function of Etzem and Neshama as opposed to Mazli Chazin. That's the effect. All right. Okay.